All right, and we are back here on the GSMC Sports Podcast. And for the second part of the show, we are now going to talk about the Browns bringing back Joe Flacco and what that could mean potentially for their draft. So, Joe Flacco spent some time with the Browns in 2023. They brought him in late that season, and he took the Browns on a magic carpet ride. Um, the Browns ended up winning 11 games. Man, my camera is just not cooperating today. That's it's gonna happen. It's a Monday, you know. But yeah. Spent some time with the Browns towards the end of towards the end of the 2023 season. With the Browns in 2023, 1,600 yards passing, 13 touchdowns, 8 interceptions. And the Browns did make the playoffs. They unfortunately did lose to the Texans. Their season kind of came to an end. Flacco threw a couple of pick sixes in that contest, and they ended up losing, and they were one and done. But you know what? He provided a spark for the Browns when they needed it because Deshaun Watson, of course, got hurt. They were going through different quarterbacks, P.J. Walker, DTR, but they were somehow still hanging around. In the playoff picture. And, Flacco came in and, he played well down the stretch for them. And not only that, he ended up winning Comeback Player of the Year, which, he was surprised by. I think, some other people were surprised by that as to why that happened. But, look, like I said, he played well. He played well down the stretch and got the Browns in the playoffs. And then, the complete opposite happened last year, right? The Browns only won 3 games, and, now they're going to be picking at number 2. So now what does that mean? Do the Browns, still take a quarterback? What's happening there? I mean, I think this signals, like we talked about last week, Browns are going to, take best player available, and it does seem like they want to take Travis Hunter. I mean, they could do that. They could take Abdul Carter. It's going to be one of those 2 guys. So they're kind of in a similar spot with the Giants. Now, I think when you look at the quarterback rooms, I mean, I think the Giants slightly have the edge. I think is that fair? Is that fair to say? When it comes to the quarterback rooms, I don't know. I mean, that's just me. I think Russell Wilson and Jameis Winston, that's a better quarterback room than, Joe Flacco and Kenny Pickett. But then you could also say, well, Jameis was with the Browns last year. Yeah, that's a good point. But I think Russ is probably the best quarterback out of those 4 guys, in my opinion. But, I don't know if Flacco is going to start day 1. It's going to be a competition, right? You're going to see Kenny Pickett and Flacco battle it out in camp. And then, whoever impresses more is going to end up with the job ultimately. So, I think that's what's going to end up happening. Now, I think, Kenny Pickett will probably get the opportunity to start. And then, if he doesn't play well, then, they could always opt to go with Flacco. Because I don't think, at this point in Joe Flacco's career, I don't think that he's going to start, 17 games. That's not going to happen. But I do think, if Kenny Pickett starts, a decent amount of games, the Browns are kind of hovering around 500 like they were last year or 2 years ago, then, maybe you go to Flacco, he provides a spark. But, it's kind of, it's a little bit different now. The Browns running back room's a little bit different. Well, actually, no. Jerome Ford is still going to be there, but they had Kareem Hunt. They don't have him anymore. Nick Chubb obviously was hurt, and, he's still a free agent. Nobody has signed him yet. I don't know what he's going to end up doing. We'll have to wait and see on that. But yeah, I mean, I don't know. The Browns are a team that, they're not coming off of a good year. I think if the quarterback play was a little bit better, and if they didn't have so many injuries, they could definitely finish with more than 3 wins, but they didn't. you know? So, yeah, I think the Browns are a team that definitely could finish with more than 3 wins next year. I do think they could bounce back. But it's really just now the number 2 overall pick. What are they going to do with that pick? I It's either Abdul Carter or it's Travis Hunter. I mean, Travis Hunter, you add him, Andrew Berry, their GM, has talked about it, that, they could potentially, have him play primarily receiver instead of corner because they're kind of set at the corner position. And the Browns, I think, they could use Travis Hunter on that side of the ball because we did talk about the Browns and, kind of where they're at with their skill position players. Outside of Jerry Jeudy and, Cedric Tillman, like I said, in a previous show, he showed flashes at times. But, he's still a question mark. There's a lot of question marks there. Jerry Jeudy was coming off a very good year with the Browns. So I think, he kind of slides in and, he becomes that Amari Cooper replacement. Because Joe Flacco and Amari Cooper did have a nice rapport when, he was there previously. But I think who really benefits from this is David Njoku. David Njoku played really well with Flacco when he came over from the Browns. So, he was a touchdown machine with Flacco. Flacco targeted him a lot. So, we'll see how it goes. But, I haven't talked about Deshaun Watson yet. He's trying to come back, and I don't know. We're probably not going to see him at all next year. We're probably not going to see him at all next year. All right, we finally got things back in order there. But he still, is hoping that he can come back. But, even if he tries to, I think he played his last game with the Browns when he got hurt. I don't think you're going to see him take another snap with the Browns. Last year was a big year for him, to kind of prove that he still has it, and he was not good. Didn't have one game where he threw for over 200 yards. And then he got hurt. Ruptured his Achilles, and then he ruptured it again rehabbing. So, yeah, it's Browns quarterback situation has just, it even goes back before Deshaun Watson. For years, they have just been trying to find their franchise quarterback. And you know what? They had it in Baker Mayfield. And they let him go. And now he's with Tampa. He has a new home there. They won a playoff game with Baker. They did do that. As you hear my dog barking for the dog pound for the Browns. They're just in a tough spot. But they did it. They did it to themselves. They traded all these assets for him. They gave him the fully guaranteed contract, Deshaun Watson, and it has just been a colossal failure. So, I think what's going to happen is you're going to see the Browns take best player available at 2, and then maybe at some point they'll draft a quarterback. I think, because they do need one. Because it's not Kenny Pickett. Joe Flacco, he's there as a veteran presence, and, if he has to go on that magic carpet ride again, take them on that magic carpet ride towards the end of the year, so be it. It's not a guarantee that can happen again. But they don't have their franchise quarterback on the roster. They don't. So, whether it's drafting one this year, or maybe you wait till next year and the quarterback class is better. But I feel like you are going to see the Browns take a quarterback at some capacity. In some capacity with this draft. I think they'll address the running back position at some point. Because, look, Abdul Carter, yes, you draft him and you pair him up with Myles Garrett. Yeah, that's quite a pass rush. Quite a duo. But I think Travis Hunter, like with the Giants, I think that would probably be the. Well, Abdul Carter, I think. Abdul Carter, I think, for the Giants, that could, be better for them. Um, because Brian Burns is not the player Myles Garrett is. And they got Dexter Lawrence too, but Abdul Carter would really make a difference for the Giants. He would make a difference for the Browns too, but again, they have Myles Garrett. So we'll see what happens. But yeah, I do think where we're at right now, I think you're going to see the Browns, take Travis Hunter, and then, we'll see what happens after the fact. But Joe Flacco's back. Browns fans were probably saying we never wanted him to leave. Which, yeah, because Jameis, although, at times he made plays, but he also threw a lot of interceptions. And that's what comes with Jameis, and now he's with the Giants, and we'll see if he gets a chance to start, but it's Russell Wilson's job. That's what that's who's going to be the starter. But let me know what you guys think, though, about the Browns bringing back Joe Flacco. What do you see the Browns doing with their number 2 overall pick? Let me know in the comments. So before we go to break, just want to remind you guys once again to tip or donate, get your comments recognized. Make sure to hit that super chat button in the chat if you want to see me acknowledge any thought or comment you may have throughout the live broadcast. It makes the show more lively, more entertaining between myself, the host, and you guys, the viewers. We appreciate you guys' viewership each and every day, so any contribution you can make to the show means the world to us as we put out content for you guys each and every day. And also, the other way to help out the show is by going to the link at the bottom of the show segment on the ticker, GSMCPodcast.net. That is GSMCPodcast.net. So, when we come back from our next break, we will get into talking about Derek Carr and his season being in jeopardy potentially with shoulder injury that he's dealing with, and what that means for the Saints, what they could do, what they have to do at the quarterback position. So, with that being said, stick around, and we'll be right back here on the GSMC Sports Podcast.